Hey guys, what up? It's your boy Khan, TDK, Mr. So Real, and we are back to doing the state of the game for the division. And just to let you know, everything in this video is subject to change.
Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Game for September 29th, 2016. We have new microphones.
Okay guys, so the PTS server is the name of the game, and there is a familiar face in the state of the game for last week, and it was Frederick. Frederick is known as the weapons guy. So what we'll do is I'll let Frederick introduce himself, and then we can go into Hamish's disclaimer. So check it out.
For the people who haven't seen Frederick on the stream before, do you want to introduce yourself very quickly?
Yeah, I'm Frederick. I work with the guns and the gear sets and the weapon mods and a lot of the numbers behind the scenes.
Nice. All right, weapons guy. And I want to have this disclaimer throughout everything that we do. This is a work in progress.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, there's been a lot of threads, and it's great that you guys are engaged with the PTS so much that you're giving us feedback all the time. But remember, that feedback needs to be implemented and refined and all those sorts of things. And we'll go a little bit more into that information now. You have another bunch of patch notes, right? So we had the last patch notes thing so many so that we can't fit them on these cards.
Yeah.
We
actually have
don't
to
have that. We just have scrub paper.
have to put them on normal paper then.
Exactly.
That's the problem because
We're up to
there's too
20
much.
pages or something.
Yeah. So the main patch notes are 20
lots.
pages document now, so that's fun. But I'm not gonna go through the main patch notes.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is happening with what we're calling week 2 now, which starts today? So we're updating the PTS with a bunch of changes. If you haven't seen it already, we actually published the patch notes on the forums.
Those are up now, right?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
out now. They were published about 30 minutes ago.
All right, so as Hamish said, everything that is going on with the PTS is a work in progress. Everything is subject to change, and that is the purpose of the PTS. Again, as I've said many times, the PTS is basically the testing grounds, I guess you could say. You're beta testing the game even though it's not in beta. So all of these things and all of these suggestions are changes that either will be implemented or are tested or tweaked and balanced, and that's what is going to happen. So this week's state of the game is really just about the fixes, the changes, the things that are coming in the 1.4 patch, and how these weapon tweaks and changes are changed, basically. These are some of the things that you may need to know about. Basically, there has been an updated blog post that gives you the patch notes, and it tells you everything you really need to know. So if the patch notes and reading every little thing exactly detail by detail is your thing, then check that out. I'll try to leave a link in the description below so that you can check out that patch. But if you'd like to see what the guys are talking about and get a few other details that they may have kind of left out, or things that are related specifically to the PTS, then of course continue watching the video. But most of the things and some of the things that are not in the patch notes are definitely in the blog post. It's not in this video. So please understand that some things are not in this video, but they are in the blog post. So without further ado, let's let them get to talking about this week's state of the game.
The most important thing, and a lot of people have been asking about that, we're wiping everything first. So all the characters that you worked on the PTS, I'm not talking about live here, so no panic, on the PTS, all the characters that you worked on, the fresh level 30 that you went through the world tier progression and everything, we're erasing all of that.
Yes.
The reason why we're doing that is because now we're actually going to transfer your characters from the live game to the PTS. So you're going to get all your characters from the 1.3 version that you can play on the live servers. You're going to get everything transferred to the PTS. So you're getting your main character. The reason why we're doing that is because this week what we want, or for week 2 what we want to test, now we had a lot of data on progression through world tiers, going from fresh level 30 to actually world tier 4 and real endgame min-maxing. Now we want to focus more on World Tier 4 and the real endgame part. And also we want you guys to focus on World Tier 4 and really try the real min-maxing with existing gear, with new gear, and all that. Yeah. So this is going to be closer to what would be the experience if we were to patch 1.4 right now on the live.
I was just going to say, it really kind of acts as a test bed for day one.
Yep. Okay, so week 2's version of the state of the game focuses more on the end game and how players are going to receive the 1.4 patch. How is your character that already exists going to interact with this new environment? That's basically what they are testing, and how mid-max characters actually fit in with some of the stat rolls and some of the things that they have changed with the game. Now, with this being said, this is a good test to make sure that everything is stable, which I don't see a problem with. I think that's a really good thing. All of the character progression that people have put into the PTS prior to this week 2 update is gone. So all of that stuff has been wiped, and if you have your old character that is over level 30, you are going to be able to test out your character and see how it does in the new game. Of course, I am on PS4. I do not have access to the PTS, so if you are looking for a streamer or a YouTuber who has that kind of content, I can honestly say I am not your man for that. I'm sure there are tons of people on PC who can help you out with that. But if you have come here because you wanted to hear something a little bit more straightforward and honest about the state of the game, the real state of the game and how things work, then you're in no better place. But that being said, we're not even going to talk about all of that. Let's just kind of continue on what they are talking about with the rest of the changes and the things that are going on with the PTS.
So what are we changing with PTS week 2? So we have patch notes. Go on the forums if you want all the details. I'm going to go through some of them, some of the changes we did. A lot of them are based on your feedback. Player grenade damage, that's now going to scale with the world tier you're in.
That's cool.
Right.
So that sounds small, but that's actually pretty good.
I think that's really good.
Yeah, it makes them usable, their damage component. They've been used as status effects or for flushing out enemies purely at endgame, and now they're relevant as part of your damage rotation.
We are finally nerfing the shotgunners. The NPC shotgunners.
The NPC shotgunners, all right.
Yes, we are nerfing their damage fall-off and their accuracy that are being slightly reduced. So the idea is that they are going to have a bit less range, and they're going to be less precise when they're shooting at you.
Right? Basically, the cone is going to spread further, so less pellets are going to hit you.
One bad news, though, that's something we actually didn't put in the patch notes, but a lot of you noticed it. We added in week 1, we actually added underground checkpoints. We're removing them. We're removing them because it's not working. That's something we wanted to try. But the problem was that when you would die, you would respawn directly at the entrance of the room you were in. Which means most of the time you would respawn directly in the middle of the fight, so you would die again. Player health will now progressively regenerate to full when you're out of combat.
Right.
So not the free segments anymore. It's actually going to...
Yeah, basically it made things like using med packs and first aid mandatory, but outside of combat, which is really uninteresting. Yeah. And so when you're out of combat, you just get to reset to full again. It makes the game a lot smoother.
Armor damage mitigation cap changed from 60% to 70%.
It was a test we did. I think you'll find it really difficult to reach the cap. But
it's pretty hard to reach already.
Yeah, but you should be able to keep stacking that armor because now you're making a trade-off for it. So it's okay to have the cap that high. You're not going to reach it without the sacrifices that it should have.
Another thing that was a bit too OP in a way, the health on kill bonus on gear that is being reduced by 50%.
It's a bit easy. So the new kill times means that kill events happen much more frequently, and so health on kill became a lot more powerful, and therefore we have to scale the amount you can stack on each gear piece down. We were seeing some very hard to kill builds.
The unkillable builds with predatory and...
We're still gonna keep it there on the gear sets, but the rolled bonuses on loose high ends.
Yeah.
Okay, so they listed a bunch of changes. Now again, this is not the full list of changes, but these are some of the changes that are going on in the PTS currently. Now, one of the changes that they had are damage from grenades is now going to be scaled, and this is very good news because, as most of us know, grenades did basically nothing to most of the NPCs. It did very little damage, and knowing that they are going to scale and actually be able to kill an NPC is very good news, in my opinion. The shotgunners have been nerfed, and it was really kind of weird that they said finally, as if they had never really nerfed the shotgunners. I remember them talking about they nerfed them a while ago, but now it's finally we've nerfed the shotgunners. Yay. Like, what the not even gonna say it. You know what I was gonna say. But what have you been doing? You know, like if you said you were gonna nerf the shotgunners, but now you're saying anyway, finally. Could be just an English faux pas, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the shotgunners are nerfed, so we don't have to worry about them being as deadly. The cone spread on the shotgun is going to be wider, less pellets hit you, less damage, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's all good stuff. They put checkpoints in the underground. I remember the underground was touted as being you had to like finish it completely without stopping, and you got bonuses for being a badass or whatever, but they tried to put in checkpoints and that didn't work, so it's gone. If you played the underground on PTS and you saw the checkpoints and it didn't work for you, leave a comment in the comment section. If it did work for you, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the PTS having checkpoints in the underground. Did it work? Did it not work? What was the big problem? I'd like to know. That's something I would actually like to know. The armor cap. If you haven't noticed, Marco Styles, who I highly respect, I think he makes really good videos. Marco Styles made a video about how the armor cap, you could have decent armor without doing much of anything. So now the armor cap has been raised from 60% to 70%, and that is some kind of way to keep having people go after armor. Whether or not that is going to be something that people really need to chase for in order to survive in the game or not remains to be seen. Of course, as I've said on my Twitter, I kind of am not judging the game from the PTS. And as I'm sure a lot of you are learning, if you didn't know, the game will change on the PTS depending on a lot of different variables, and nothing is set in stone. So if people get their hopes up on the game being like the PTS in certain situations, you may be subject to a rude awakening and find out that a lot of the stuff gets changed. So please, 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 to save yourself some heartache and some disappointment, do not bank on a lot of the things in the PTS being a reality. Some of those things will be real, but a lot of them are subject to change, and the values may be different, and in the end your experience may be completely different and totally changed. You really need to kind of think about that. The last thing I want to talk about that they discussed in changes was health on kill. Health on kill is one of my favorite things. I like having vampire builds and being able to stay alive longer. It kind of sucks that, you know, they had to adjust it, but if they had to adjust it to make sure that it was more balanced, then I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Bunch of gear set changes. Okay, I'm gonna go through them quickly. Frederick, stop me if you want to talk about it. Tactician's Authority, the 2-piece is now 10% skill haste, and the 3-piece is now 10% skill power.
Yeah, and skill haste changed as well, so that it's 10% means that it's 10% shorter between your skills, and it's a nice 2-piece for people to be able to dip into from other builds.
Lone Star 3 pieces is now 8% damage bonus for LMG and shotgun, so it's not a flat bonus, it's a percentage.
Because the flat bonus just simply doesn't scale with the world tiers, whereas a percentage does.
Predator's Mark, so 2-piece is now 10% reload speed, which is nice. 3-piece it's the same, it's 8% damage bonus on assault rifle and SMG.
But it's SMG and not pistol damage.
And also another change to Predator, which is with the 4-piece, because the bleed now is 50% of the total amount damage.
Right, so you were, when played correctly, like as in applying the bleed and then leaving that target to bleed, that damage multiplication was just a little bit too high for the new meta. Normally you tend to overwrite the bleed when you shoot another 10 bullets in, so you wouldn't see how really powerful that was, but in some edge cases, it turned out really, really powerful.
Reclaimer?
Yeah. So,
yes, so we are bringing it back.
So Reclaimer does the same thing, but it follows the rules of the game. It triggers your consumable cooldowns, and it follows the rules of them, which means that it's a remote control for people's cooldowns, and it means that you as a group won't run out, but it doesn't allow you to stack a bunch of silly stuff that shouldn't be able to stack, and chain it with multiple reclaimers in a group, and all of those things that used to sort of break that experience.
Yeah. Cool.
Blind is dead, long live Banshee.
So we figured that we have a meta now where maybe we have 10, 13, whatever functioning good gear sets instead of a few. Yeah. And this is the time where we could look at one and make it specialized. And blind really wasn't working. It was dropping grenades where on the one place where you knew that someone had already died, etc. So we couldn't make it very good or very interesting. So we're trying out this dark zone focused gear set. I think some people will find it interesting, others will ignore it, and that's fine.
That's cool.
There's other builds for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so gear sets that we have all come to know and love have been adjusted and changed. Some of these things I'm sure are making lots of people happy. Some of them are not. Having Tactician go down to 10% more skill power and 10% more skill haste. I liked Tactician, so until I see how this all works out and really plays out, no comment. Lone Star having bonus damage to shotguns and LMGs, I think is, kind of not too bad, but what are the other stats and how are they really going to work with the way that the game is set up? How is the combat? That's what I'm really more interested in. So stats and numbers are good to have, but how does it actually play out? This is really more important, in my opinion. Predator's Mark. I have loved Predator's Mark for a long time. I know quite a few people who do PvP love Predator's Mark, and it's really good. The fact that now Predator's Mark is going to work with ARs and SMGs is going to bring SMGs back into the fold really big. I think SMGs, if you hated SMGs getting that nerf, they're going to come back and they're going to be a thing to be reckoned with, because if you have an SMG, you get in close, you do a bunch of damage, apply the bleed. If by some miracle they get away, you can pull out your AR, dump on them, and it's good night. I think Predator's Mark is really going to be a big contender once 1.4 comes back out. The Reclaimer, I don't really understand what they were trying to explain. It just seemed kind of like it works now. Okay, it works now. So the last thing that I think we want to talk about is the blind set, which is gone and replaced for something else called Banshee. Take it away.
So Banshee. So again, it's replacing blind, which means that when you're going to log in, all the blind pieces you had are actually going to turn into Banshee pieces. So we're not removing your blind pieces, we're just replacing them by Banshee. So the bonus of Banshee, 2 pieces plus 20% Dark Zone currency gained.
Right, and that I get a lot of questions why that's good. There's nothing to buy for the Dark Zone currency, but there is. You're going to be able to buy sealed caches for it. There's going to be other stock at the vendors, etc.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good farming currency.
It's going to be good. 3 pieces plus 10% damage to target out of cover.
Right, this is the same bonus as on LMGs. We see that it's a very useful stat in the Dark Zone.
The 4-piece bonus, so that's where it gets interesting. So for the first time, we actually we bring a gear set that has changing bonus depending on situation.
And the first one that relies on the rogue mechanic.
And it relies on the rogue mechanic. So the 4-piece bonus, while rogue, when you're rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds.
Because you can't run to the stashes and the safe houses and replenish.
Exactly. And damage taken from non-rogue players is reduced by 10%.
Right.
And then while not rogue, so as we said, it's changing depending on if you're rogue or not rogue, and when you're not rogue. So the first bonus, so let's say, damage to rogue player is increased by 10%.
Actually,
Yeah, I go with this one and then I'll explain the other one.
Yeah.
So damage to rogue players is increased by 10% when you're actually not rogue, which can either negates the damage mitigation that they get from Banshee, or otherwise if they don't have
Or
Banshee,
just turns you into
Makes
a
it-
rogue
yeah.
hunter.
you can be a rogue hunter. And then there's a second bonus. So the reason why I'm talking about this one second, movement speed is increased by 20%. This is going to be on the PTS, but just so you guys know, we're going to change this bonus because for technical reasons and performance reasons, this is not something we can do.
Yeah, the movement speed didn't work in some parts of the Dark Zone.
So you can play with it in the PTS, but know that the movement speed is going to go and we're going to replace it with something else. What? Tell us.
Okay, so now that we know what Banshee is, and we kind of know how they break down, the two-piece has more DZ funds. You get more DZ funds, which I think is great because DZ funds, for a lot of people, myself included, were always a little bit of a pain in the ass to try to get. Just because if you die, you lost a bunch of DZ funds, and with rogues being what they are, if you were a solo player, getting the DZ funds to buy good blueprints was always a problem. Hopefully now it'll be a lot easier and it'll make the blueprint videos that I make a lot more worth it for people who want to get stuff from the Dark Zone vendors. I'm looking forward to that and seeing, is that 20% really a big enough increase for people to be able to buy a lot of things from the Dark Zone with Dark Zone credits. The three-piece, 10% damage to enemies out of cover, I think is good. If there's a way to kind of stack that plus, what is it, I guess the LMG damage from Lone Star, that could be pretty good, but I think that's a three-piece, so it'd be a three-piece and a three-piece. Could be something interesting. You get 20% more damage to enemies out of cover, plus if you had an LMG with bonus damage to enemies out of cover, that could be pretty strong. Might be something worth thinking about. Now the four-piece. The four-piece is really kind of strange. Either you're going to be rogue or you're not going to be rogue. I'm not really sure how I feel about that completely. Making it so that if you are rogue, you get 10% more damage to non-rogue agent. Well, to basically non-rogue. So you get 10% more damage. And if you have the same set, you do more damage, 10% more damage to rogues. It sounds like you kind of have to have the set in order to be in PvP or in the Dark Zone. And that's, I think, a little bit not unfair, but it just seems like almost a requirement. Kind of how like now, if you're not running Sentries or some other OP broken build with a shotgun, then hey, you were asking for it. But saying that, you know, this kind of balances another set or the exact same set is really weird. It would have been nice if they had a different set that kind of counteracted but gave other bonuses that were also helpful to non-rogue agents, and then just made the Banshee set completely for rogue stuff and for running around in the DZ and basically being a dick, which is what they seem to want you to be in the Dark Zone anyway. But leave a comment. What do you guys think about the Banshee set? I'm not excited about it. I can't even say I'm on the fence about it. I really honestly don't really like the fact that you have to have the same set in order to put yourself back at 0 to deal with people grieving you and being jerks. Personally, I'm not a big fan, but if you are, let me know why. If you're not and you kind of on my side, let me know what other concerns you may have with the Banshee set.
So now let's talk about weapons.
Because apparently I'm the weapon guy.
So let's talk about weapons with the weapon guy. So first few things. You have, I don't know if it's you, but updated the DPS calculation formula. Kind of.
Yeah, there's another iteration going on the PTS today. It's more similar to what's on live, but it doesn't. You can't jack up your DPS by stacking accuracy, so it counts all headshots. It's ideal DPS, as if everything you hit was a headshot. That I think it's better, but it's not super great because sometimes it encourages people that aren't so versed in the DPS to stack more headshot damage than maybe other stats. So we're going to have another look at it, but it's better than what it used to be.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, DPS calculations. I'm really confused. by what Frederick was talking about. It really sounded like gibberish to me. I can't even comment on that. I really did not understand what they were talking about. If you understood that, let me know. What?
Weapon recalibration. When you recalibrate a weapon now, you will actually have 3 additional choices of weapon talents. So instead of having 3 weapon talents plus the one you initially had, you will have 6 weapon talents plus the one you initially had.
Right, so it'll be way easier to get those
pick
rolls
from
that you
in
want.
the recalibration.
So the idea is that you should be able eventually, hopefully you should get the talent you're looking for before running out of choice. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
All right, so the recalibration station is now going to have 3 more slots so that you can get the talents that you want. I think this is amazing news. This is such good news because I always seem to get the wrong talents when I re-rolled something, and it was infuriating. It made me so angry that I wasted so many Phoenix credits to re-roll and get proficient. Like, that was the best that it got. It was proficient, and that really sucked. But I'm happy that they added more chances for you to get something that you want. Hopefully it'll be better. Fingers crossed. Let's hope and see.